This is a new video on EP diagram, and in this video I specifically will look at the preference screen for EP diagram. If you haven't seen it already, I made a basic tutorial for the app which I'll link below, but I want to start making some more advanced tutorials and look at all the features of the app. So we'll go ahead and start up the app, and I'll just create a new diagram. And with this diagram, I'll go ahead and load in an EKG, but I'm not really going to use it, just so it kind of looks better. And I'll go ahead and add a few marks, which I'm adding just by double clicking. And I'll connect these marks. Again, I'm ignoring the EKG. Just want to have some samples to look at. Now I'm using the desktop version of the program, but the iPad version has the same features. It's a little easier to see the effect of the preferences on the desktop version. I'll open the preferences and we'll just run through them one by one. The first preference concerns the labels for the different regions. In this case, I have the option visible if fits. I think the default is just invisible. So the main labels are always shown, but the sub-label can be shown. For example, here it says A, atrium, AV, atrioventricular, and V, ventricular. And you have the option also to just show them if they happen to fit in there. And you can enlarge these labels to make them fit if you want to, but I'll just go ahead and leave it as invisible. The next option is to hide all the marks. If you want to just show a diagram and not show the actual marks initially, you can set this, and you can see there's a label that says the marks are hidden. The next option says show intervals after calibration, and we're not seeing any intervals even though this is on because the diagram hasn't been calibrated yet. I'll go ahead and just calibrate it. I'll just arbitrarily set an interval. I'm not really calibrating it, but once we set the calibration, you can see the intervals appear. And we can turn off the intervals with this switch. We can group where the intervals are shown with this next option. We can either have the intervals on the outside of the ladder at the top and bottom, or in the inside of the ladder, or we can, since there are an awful lot of intervals being shown, we can eliminate some of them by these partial interval settings. So I'll set it back to full exterior. Conduction times are being shown here, and you can turn that off or on. And these zero conduction times aren't very useful. If you want to hide them, you can with this option. Now mark labels are shown on here, but I don't have a label on here. I'll just go to the edit screen and add a label. So you add it on top here. We'll just call it A sense perhaps. And you see there's the label. And you can either hide them or show them once they're there. Markers, I'll hide them. Markers are little alignment marks that line up with the marks. So you can more easily align the marks with the EKG. For example, I'll put in a new mark here, and if I move it around, these markers line up. So they can be useful, and you can change the width, the prominence of these markers with this setting here. You can change the color too. I'll turn them off, but I'll go ahead and show how you change a color. This is the active region color. tap on a region, you say this is the region where marks will be added if you just tap on the EKG. And I'll just show an example of changing that color. I'll change it to purple color. The marks themselves, you can change how prominent they are by changing their width. So there's other colors in the app which you can change, but I won't show you all those. Impulse origin are these little dots which are determined automatically or can be set manually using the edit screen. You can turn them off or on. You can make them attached to the mark, or you can make them above or below the marks. You can change the size of these markers. You can also show or not show block. Block again is determined automatically, but it can be set manually. Here's a block marker. I'll turn that off and turn it on again. You can make it a double line. You can make it a horizontal or kind of right angles. You can also add arrows to show the direction of conduction, which again is determined automatically. Auto link marks, I'll show you what that is. That's this phenomenon here, where if you take a mark and get it close to another mark, it'll automatically connect up. And that's useful for automatically determining intervals and conduction impulses and block and things like that. So I recommend you just leave that on unless you really don't want to link up your marks. The default mark style has to do with new marks that are added. If I turn it to dash and add a new mark, you can see it's a dash mark. You can also use the edit menu to change marks, the mark style, either of a single mark or multiple marks. I'll show that in another video. Periods are a new feature of the app, and I'll show these preferences in a later video. The cursor size, you can set the width of the cursor. I'll show the cursor and then make it more or less prominent, change the color. And finally, you can change the width of the calipers that you use to calibrate the diagram. You can make them more prominent or less prominent. And that's it for preferences, except for the period preferences, which again I'll show in a later video. And hopefully we'll have 2 or 3 more advanced videos coming soon. So thanks for your attention. Bye-bye.